Good morning, one and all. I am Mathew, Assistant Professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. So, let me first of all welcome you all to a lecture on the course ME404 Industrial Engineering. Today, we'll be dealing with two topics from module number 5. We'll be talking about production systems, the different types of production systems, and the concept of product lifecycle. So without further ado, let's get started with the topics. So before starting off with production systems, let me give you an introduction as to what the term production means. So the term production is a representation of a sequence of technical processes which requires either directly or indirectly the mental and physical skills of craftsmen or labor, and involves changing the shape, size, and properties of materials and ultimately converting them into useful goods. So the process essentially consists of modifying materials and converting them into useful goods and services. And this particular process requires a series of technical processes to be executed, and this execution requires either directly or indirectly skills, including mental and physical skills of labor. So the process of production involves a process of value addition, or rather it is a value addition process where you add value to a raw material and convert them into a good or a service that is essential for a customer. So the process through which you convert raw materials into useful goods is referred to as production. So production is done with the help of a system called the production system, or essentially the place where production takes place is referred to as a production system. And a production system essentially consists of three major elements. Now these elements are listed out on the screen using a block diagram. So essentially the production system consists of inputs which are transformed to outputs which are goods and services through the use of a transformation process. So production system consists of these three major elements: inputs, transformation processes, and outputs. Now the inputs are either men, material, machines, money, information, etc. So whatever goes into the transformation process constitutes the input, and these inputs are transformed. Their characteristics are changed. It may be either the shape, the size, or the properties of these inputs. So these inputs are transformed through a transformation process into the essential goods or services. And the transformation process involves a lot of actions. So the transformation process involves a process of product planning, a process of process planning, which together constitute what we refer to as production planning. It also constitutes an action called production control, and also activities like maintenance to which help to maintain these processes in the right fashion. So the transformation process essentially consists of certain amounts of planning and control, and these activities together are referred to as production planning and control. Now, the topic of production planning and control will be dealt with in detail in later classes. Today, we'll be concentrating or we'll be focusing upon the concept of production system. So the production system, as I told earlier, it essentially consists of three major elements or components: the inputs, the outputs, and the transformation processes which convert the inputs into outputs. Now, there can be an additional element in most cases in a production system, and this additional element is what we refer to as a feedback. Now, this feedback is what basically helps us to correct our transformation processes and inputs so that we produce goods and services which are of value to your customer. So the essential feedbacks are the sales volumes of your product or service, the inventory levels of your finished goods. These essentially form a feedback. And based upon the feedback, you modify either the inputs or the transformation process to change the kind of outputs so that it is acceptable to your customer. So, for example, how does inventory level serve as a feedback element? Now, talking up of finished goods, which we refer to as finished goods inventory. Now, this stockpiling of inventory, if that particular level of inventory keeps increasing, that is a good indicator that our production rates or our products are too high. I'm sorry, the production rates are too high, or our products are not acceptable to customers. Now, that can be taken as a feedback. Thereby, we can either modify our transformation process, okay, reducing our production rates, or we can either transform our inputs or change our inputs to get the required outputs. So the fourth important element or component of the production system is the feedback. So together, the inputs, the transformation process, the outputs, and feedback element together constitute the production system. Now we move on to different types of production systems. So based upon the volume of production and product variety or level of standardization, production systems are classified as either intermittent production systems, continuous production systems, assembly lines, and cellular production, of which intermittent production system and continuous production systems are the most important kinds. So our discussions will be limited to intermittent production systems and continuous production systems. The concept of cellular production and assembly lines were dealt with in earlier modules. So we'll focus our effort upon discussion of the concept of intermittent production systems and continuous production systems. So the intermittent production systems are again divided into three major types. They can either be product industries, job shop production industries, or mass production industries. And continuous production systems are again subclassified as mass production systems and process production systems. So first of all, let us have a look at what the nature of intermittent production systems are. So intermittent production system, as the name suggests, as the term intermittent suggests, the production is intermittent or it is interrupted at irregular intervals. So the production is not continuous, it is not a smooth flow of materials or smooth flow of products that you see in this kind of production systems. And the characteristics of the product is that it is generally made to order. You only manufacture a product or a service once you receive an order from the consumer or the customer. The second important characteristic is that the flow of materials in intermittent production systems are not continuous. They are broken down or they are irregular in nature, and the production only takes place once an order is placed. Generally, this kind of production system is very flexible and is capable of producing a wide variety of products, but at low volumes. And the cost involved in producing these products will be generally higher when compared to a product produced from a continuous production system, due to the fact that these This particular production system is not optimized for a particular product. They use general purpose machinery, and there is a lot of material handling effort involved as the layout is generally not optimized for a particular kind of product. So the cost involved and the time involved in producing a product is higher, but at the same time, these systems are capable of producing a wide variety of orders, and thus these systems enable the company to cater towards a wide variety of needs of different customers. Another major characteristic of this kind of system is that the production planning and control operation is much more complex because the same plant or the production facility is used to produce multiple varieties of products which are processed simultaneously. Intermittent production system also requires the employment of highly skilled labor because skilled labor is required as they are dealing with a wider variety of products. They are not doing the same kind of job over and over again, and hence it requires use of highly skilled labor. And correspondingly, the workloads upon the employees will be unbalanced because you do not have a regular plan or a regular work schedule. The work only starts once an order comes in. So generally the workloads of employees in employees of companies which employ the intermittent production system is generally very unbalanced in nature, and careful supervision of all the activities are required because these activities or processes performed by the employees are generally one-time activities which are specific to a particular product. So they are not experts at doing the particular job, and thus close and careful supervision might be required. These are the general characteristics of intermittent production systems. Now, these intermittent production systems are again divided into three subtypes. There are project industries, job shop production industries, and batch production industries, each of them differing in the variety of products that are produced and the volume of production. Now, in project industries, these industries are characterized by a set of complex activities that must be performed in a particular order within a given cost and time frame. An example for such an industry would be a construction firm which is currently involved in constructing a particular building. Now, this industry carries out a complex set of activities in a particular order under a particular time and cost restraint or a constraint. So, such kinds of industries are what we generally refer to as project industries. Now, the second kind of intermittent production system is a job shop production where one or small quantity of products are produced to customer specifications. An example for this would be companies or industries involved in the manufacture of special purpose equipments or machinery. They produce one or a small quantity of a required product as per customer specification. So here, variety of production is high because it's according to customer specification, but at the same time, the quantities is gently very low. Okay? It's either one or a very small quantity. So the level of standardization in this particular kind of production system is very low. In project industries, they are only dealing with construction of a single product, whereas in a job, it is either one or small quantity of a single product. Now, at the same time, there will be multiple number of products being processed by a job shop production system. The third kind of intermittent production system is a batch production facility where production of different kinds of products are done in small batches or lots at regular intervals. Now, these batches can be of small size or large size, and it depends upon the kind of order that is expected or the kind of order that is received from the consumer. So, batch shop production is basically a transition point between job production and mass production system. That means it's a transition between intermittent production systems and mass production systems. And batch production has characteristics of both intermittent and continuous production systems. An example for a batch production system is a bakery where they produce a single kind of product, say, for example, different kinds of breads in different batches, and these batches are at regular intervals. So such kind of production is referred to as a batch production. So as I told you earlier, batch production system is a transition, or it indicates a transition between an intermittent production system and continuous production system. The next kind of production system that we'll be talking about is a continuous production system, and as the name suggests, the production here is generally continuous in nature. You do not generally wait for the consumers to make an order, but rather you produce your products for which you estimate a demand or you forecast a demand, produce them in large quantities, and you stock them as finished goods inventory. So essentially, continuous production systems are made to stock systems. Some of the major characteristics of the continuous production system include the fact that the flow of materials in continuous production systems are generally continuous in nature. There are no interruptions in the flow of materials during in a continuous production system. Production generally at the same time is less flexible when compared to intermittent production systems, and hence the variety of products produced are less. Production at the same time it takes place in larger volumes. So here continuous production systems are characterized by low variety of products manufactured at large volumes or manufactured in large volumes. Now, continuous production systems make use of special purpose machinery and automated material handling systems. The layout generally employed for a continuous production system is generally the product or a line layout. Now, this particular layout ensures that the material handling is kept to a bare minimum, and most of the time, these material handling is automated in nature. Hence, due to the fast processing of materials and low material handling, the cost and time involved in manufacturing is low when compared to intermittent production systems. Another characteristic of continuous production system is the fact that production planning and control is much more easier as we are dealing with only very low varieties of products. The employees that that run or operate the machines need not be as skilled as the ones who are employed in intermittent production systems, as they are employed or as they are doing the same kind of job over and over again. So the repetitive nature of jobs makes it possible for us to employ employees who are less skilled than the ones who are needed to be employed in an intermittent production system. Correspondingly, the workloads in continuous production systems are much more balanced. Due to the repetitive nature of work in continuous production systems, lesser supervision is required. Now, continuous production systems can again be divided into two kinds: mass production systems and process production systems. Mass production systems deal with the manufacture of two or more varieties of a product on the same production line. This kind of production has very high levels of standardization where they have standard flow of materials, standardized procedures, and standardized operations for each and every stage. So, only a low variety of production takes place in mass production, but they are generally manufactured in very high volumes. An example for a mass production would be the manufacturing of different variants of a single product. For example, let us take the case of a car. Different variants of the same car being manufactured on the same production line. That constitutes a mass production line. Even different products, different cars manufactured in the same production line is an example for a mass production system. So the variety of products is limited, but they are produced on a continuous basis and they are stocked in large volumes. Second kind of continuous production system is a process production where you have a single type of product being manufactured at very high quantities and with the use of very high levels of standardization. An example for this would be manufacturing of petroleum products, manufacturing of paints, etc. Now, as you all know, petroleum processes involve the refinement of crude oil, and the process that is used to produce different fractional distillation products like petrol and diesel, they remain the same. So you are producing one or more different products by just employing a single a single process. That is why you generally refer to these kinds of systems as process production systems. So with that, we conclude our discussion on different types of production systems. So hope everything is clear regarding the concept of production system, and different types of production systems. Now, I would like to move on to the next part of this particular module called product life cycle. Now, let us start off with a topic called product life cycle. Now, product life cycle, it refers to the time period from which the product is first launched into the market until the time it is finally withdrawn from the market. So essentially, product life cycle is a time period from launch to withdrawal. So during the product life cycle, we come across different stages, each having their own individual characteristics. Now these stages differ in the product sales volume or sales revenues and the rate at which these product sales change. So the product life cycle essentially consists of 4 different stages. They are the introduction stage, the growth stage, the maturity stage, and the decline stage. Now the introduction stage is a stage where the demand for a particular product or product sales volumes are typically low. This is essentially due to the fact that consumers are less aware about the products, and hence during this stage companies are involved in creating consumer awareness through advertisements and through sales promotional activities. So a high proportion of the budget is spent on creating consumer awareness. Now the aim of a company during this stage is to establish a market and build demand for a product. Now the second stage, called the growth stage, is where you see a rapid growth in product sales and sales revenues. So this is a stage where consumers become aware about the product and they develop a liking for the product and buy them in large volumes. Now, this high growth rate is not sustained throughout the entire lifetime of a product. So, essentially, this high or rapid growth rate slows down with time, and hence we move on to the next stage called maturity. Now, maturity is a stage where the growth or the sales growth reaches a ceiling or a maximum. This is due to increased competition in the market, which eats up into a company's market share. So, the aim of the company during this stage is to maintain the market share and extend the life cycle of the product. And the major activities done during this particular stage are modifications in the product or product packaging, etc., so that they maintain the market share and fend off competition from their competitors. The last stage is a stage where you see the demand for a particular product tending to decline. Now, this will essentially happen with time because with changing time, there are changing technology and change in consumer needs and consumer tastes. So this change in technology and change in consumer tastes and preferences essentially leads to certain products being outdated, and hence they reach a stage of decline where the sales of the product starts to grow. It is at the end of this stage that the product is finally withdrawn from the market. So the various stages of product life cycle can be essentially seen or represented using this particular graph. So the product life cycle and the various stages are plotted on a graph on which on the y-axis we have the annual sales volume or revenue, and on the x-axis we have time. So as time varies, you see that we pass through different stages. The first stage being an introduction stage. So the introduction stage is characterized by slow growth rates. The slope of this particular curve at this particular stage is very low, and correspondingly the sales volumes are also will be very low during this stage. So this is where a large proportion of the company's expenditure is made upon making consumers aware. So second stage is a stage where you see the slope of this particular curve being the maximum. So this indicates a region where the sales growth rates are extremely high, and that is why we name this stage as the stage of growth. Now this happens when the consumers become aware of the product and they develop a liking towards a product or a service. Now it is not essential that all products introduced into the market go into stage 2, that is stage of growth. Some products, they die prematurely. That means they are withdrawn from the market due to the fact that you do not observe a stage of growth even after a long time of introduction. So essentially, products that pass stage 1 and grow or move on to stage 2, where they essentially see a very rapid rise in the product sales volume, they move on to a stage called growth. Now, this growth, with time, it tends to decline and it reaches a point of maximum. So the stage where you start to see the decline of sales volume, that means the growth rates start to decline, they hit a maximum and then they start to fall. So this particular stage represents a stage of maturity. So a company with its product in
the maturity stage tries to maintain its market share. So this particular ceiling limit has been hit due to the fact that you have more competition coming into the market. Competition starts to eat up into your market share, and this results in the reduction in sales growth rate and peaking of the sales growth rates. So your sales volumes will hit a peak, and generally companies try to maintain this level of sales volume throughout or maintain the market share by either changing the product characteristics or by changing any other characteristics which are likely to influence demand. Now, with time, you essentially see that this particular demand rate or product sales rate for product starts to dip very rapidly. Now, this is due to even with extensive efforts on the market management to keep the product relevant by introducing facelifts, it is still seen that the product sales rates decline. Now, this can be attributed towards a change in the taste of the consumers or a change in technology. So, a product essentially becomes obsolete with time. So, this kind of obsolescence results in a sudden and rapid decline in the sales volume, which we represent as a stage of decline. And after a particular point, we see that it is no longer viable, economically viable for a company to keep producing and selling the particular product. And at a point in the decline stage, the product is finally withdrawn from the market. So that is all that we have to discuss regarding product lifecycle.